The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 79.
Enjoy the nerves. Enjoy the fact that you have a chance to win and a chance to do something great today. And that kind of flipped my perspective a little.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeff Pellizzaro. Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thank you for joining me. I have a bit of an apology to make, primarily to all of the female golfers that are fans of the 18 Strong Podcast, viewers of the 18 Strong YouTube channel, follow our website. I know that in the past, I tend to speak more towards the male audience, write towards the male audience. A lot of our interviews are geared a little bit, and much like a lot of the golf information that's out there, is geared more towards the males. And that just tends to be the clientele that I tend to work with, and so that's naturally who I talk to. And really, as I'm creating some of the content, thinking about the podcast, I have a couple individuals that I know personally that I tend to try to speak to because I know some of the questions that they would ask. And so I tend to put it in that person, that third-person point of view. But I know that we have a lot of women that are listening to the podcast and following the website, and so I wanted to do something a little bit special. I was actually, funnily enough, kind of called out about a week or two ago, and I want to thank you, Phyllis, for doing this. I sent an email out to our list, and it made a mention of something about, if you have very little time in your game, you've got a wife, you've got kids, you've got your job, and you're trying to squeeze your golf in. I didn't really think that may have sounded a little bit sexist or, was not taking into account the women in our audience. And so, ladies, I want to do something a little special for you this week. We have an incredible guest. Her name is Demi Runas. She's an LPGA player. She played on the Symetra Tour, was in the top 10 money earners on that tour in 2014, which got her LPGA card for 2015. And she's just an incredibly hard worker. She's a beautiful young woman. She's one of golf.com's most beautiful women in golf last year, 2015. So she's got an incredible story. She has had some incredible experiences on the golf course. And so I wanted to share that with you. I was speaking with Coach Caitlin Sharpless, who's been shooting a lot of videos for 18 Strong, if you haven't seen them on our YouTube channel. And we were just talking about women's golf and, a little bit of the spin that we can put on 18 Strong to gear some content towards the ladies in the audience. And she mentioned that she had just met and was hanging out with Demi Runas not too long ago. And the fact that Demi is a hard worker in the gym, on the course, and that she would be a great podcast guest. So we got it all set up, and so we were lucky enough to get her here on the show today. So I want to thank Caitlin for helping us get Demi on the show. And what's cool is Demi really kind of busts up some of the myths that I know a lot of the females have experienced in the past, that, the whole idea of weight training and golf and just looks and physique and things like that. And, is lifting weights going to make me bulky, that whole thing. And guys, you will know this just like I do. Most of us guys have been trying to get bulky for our entire lives. And it's very, very hard to do. So ladies, don't be afraid of lifting some weights. And Demi's going to speak to that a little bit. But guys, I don't want you to shy away from this episode because it's a little bit more geared towards talking about Demi and her experiences, because Demi has some huge insights into what can make your game better, what can make all of our games better, proper training for golf, proper nutrition, what she does on and off the course, and talking about some of the mental stuff, how to embrace your nerves out there. And then one of the very most important things is how you can be nicer to yourself out on the course, be a little bit more forgiving. So I really, really am excited to share with you guys this interview with Demi. So let's jump right in. Hey, Demi, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So first off, I ask all my clients, all my guests on the show, this question at some point during the interview, and I want to just get to know you a little bit better. Are you more of a Caddyshack or a Happy Gilmore fan?
Definitely Happy Gilmore. I think that's a generational thing, though.
Yeah.
that's when I was younger. Happy Gilmore was the first golf movie that I heard of. It wasn't until later on that I watched Caddyshack. They're both great, but Happy Gilmore definitely.
Gotcha. All right. And then my follow-up question, totally different avenue, is there a person or an event or maybe even something like a book or something that has been very influential in getting you to where you are today?
God, that can be a long list. I mean, I'd have to say, I've worked with my swing coach for the last 12 years almost. So he's obviously a big part of the reason that I'm here. And but if I could pick one person, I would say it was my college coach at UC Davis. Her name's Ann Walker. And she was just one of those people who was really good at bringing out like the best in all of her players. And she definitely believed in me more in the beginning than I believed in myself. So having her support like really early on in college, especially coming out of Southern California, there's so many good golfers out here that my perception of what was good was a little bit warped. So, she just instilled in me, like, you can compete with those girls. You don't have to, you put them on a different pedestal. And yeah, she's a big reason as to why I'm here now.
That's awesome. It's amazing how sometimes people see that in us when we don't see it ourselves necessarily, and help kind of bring that out. So when did you start playing golf? And then at what point did you kind of see, hey, I might have a shot at this to go play professionally?
So, I mean, I had a golf club in my hand when I was maybe 4 or 5. So as long as I can remember, I mean, my dad picked it up kind of around the same time and killed 2 birds with one stone. He used to babysit me at the driving range, and that's how I got started. Played in my first tournament when I was 8 through the first tee, and
Nice.
that was the junior program that kind of got me going, got me interested. And let's see, what was the second part of your question again? Sorry.
When did you kind of decide or think, hey, I might have a shot at turning pro, or make that decision? Because I know that's a tough one when you're going through, high school, college, all that.
Yeah, I think I really felt that I had a shot at turning professional and being successful at it. Probably sophomore year of college. I won my first college event that year, and I just, my game was kind of progressively getting better and better, and I was on a climb at that point, and I was like, maybe I'll give this a shot. I like being outside more than inside. I loved classes. It was great, but outside definitely was more appealing than sitting in an office.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did the transition go from playing college golf and then all of a sudden now you're your own deal. It's up to you to perform and to make it and get to where you want to go. So how's that transition been?
It was very fast, I would have to say. I graduated in 2013, and then I went through Q school and was lucky enough to make it through final stage. Like, as I said, I was kind of on an ascend in terms of my skill level. Like, I was just continually getting better and better, and it just worked out great timing-wise. Made it to final stage, didn't get my card, but then played a year on the Symetra Tour and ended up top 10 on the money list after 2014, I want to say. And then that's how I ended up I got my card through that tour. And then I was on the LPGA. I feel like I blinked, and then all of a sudden I was playing on the LPGA tour. So I would have to say it was very fast. It was a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning curves that I had to go through. So now that I'm I can't be a rookie anymore, I guess. Right. Is what it is. So I was a 2-year rookie, and now I'm officially done with that.
And was there a little bit of shell shock when you did get out there and you're playing against some of the girls that you've seen on TV? You knew, maybe even some of your idols. What was that like?
It was a huge shell shock, definitely. When I got out to my first event, I was warming up on the range next to, like Michelle Wee and Paul Creamer, and I was like, wow, you guys are real people. This is kind of cool. But I mean, it was. Obviously I would have loved to have played a little bit better my first year out there, but a little bit of shell shock came into that. And just now, I think looking back, I was able to objectively look at what I needed to work on going into the following years. So it was a little bit of a transition period, but I'm very, very happy of what I learned from the last few years.
If you could, I think it's always helpful to see both sides of the coin when talking with golfers, and especially somebody at your level, because we all have our highs and lows. And if you could take us to a time, maybe a story that you have, and it doesn't have to be professionally, this could be back in the day, when you had one of your most frustrating or most difficult times on the golf course.
I'd probably have to say it was just this past season on the tour, because I got to maybe about midway through, and as a rookie, you don't get into all of, like, there's Asia events at the end of the year that are only reserved for the top 100 or so on the money list. So you only get a few events. You don't get as many events, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, like, as a rookie, to retain your card for the following year, especially if you don't get off to a good start. So this year, I think it was very frustrating, because I knew that I had the capability of performing out there, but for some reason I just couldn't get over the weird mental transition that was last year for me,
Sure.
Just to step up onto the tee and to do what I've always done, which is, play golf, hit a golf ball around and the golf course and get it in the hole as little strokes as possible. But yeah, I think last year was a little bit frustrating for me, because I felt like, it was there. I was like right on the cusp of performing well, and then like one or two things would happen. So it was just, patience was kind of short last year. So, but that's golf though. It's, I spent so many years kind of getting better and better, and then I plateaued a little bit last year, and it was weird for me to struggle as much as I did. So, I'm slowly getting over it, trying to build back my confidence, but that's golf though. You just kind of got to roll with the punches.
Absolutely. So, and what do you take from that experience, as golfers ourselves listening to this? I mean, we've all had those frustrations, we've all had, and even in our own personal careers, what kind of lessons or takeaways do you have from that?
I'd say it's just, you have to realize that just because you have a bad week or a bad day or a bad month for that matter, it doesn't mean that you've lost your ability to play golf. You're never as bad as you were the day before. Like, you learn every single day. Golf is one of those crazy sports where you can do everything that you can to prepare yourself to play well, and if the chips don't fall for you, then they don't. And I think learning patience and being nice to yourself will help you in the long run.
That's a huge one, being nice to yourself. Not a lot of golfers take that seriously on the course, and we had the Vision 54 ladies on, and that was one of the big things that they talked about was, having fun out there and enjoying it, and kind of appreciating you as a golfer. So, all right, let's change direction of emotion here, and take us to a point, maybe like a single event that was like your greatest moment on the course, or your greatest achievement that you've had.
I definitely would have to say it would be the day that I got my card for the LPGA. So it was the last event of the year on the Symetra Tour in 2014. It was the Tour Championship. I was like 7 behind the leaders going into the last day. So I was like, well, I was actually mentally making plans to go to final stage. The girls that I'd stayed with, I was like, hey, we should stay together again in a few months. And I just had a really weird feeling, I think, going into the final day. Like, I had this really like serene feeling about me. And, I started off, made a couple pars, and then I chipped in on like the 4th hole or something. And then all of a sudden from there, it was just, I made another birdie, I made another birdie, I made another birdie. And I came into the last 2 holes 5 under. And I hadn't looked at the scoreboard at all like that day, because that's not me. Because I have a tendency to get a little ahead of myself, I can't look at the scoreboards, because then I'll just start thinking.
Right.
So I birdied 17 to go to 6. And then I'm on the 18th tee, and it's a reachable par 5, but I had to lay up because I had hit it in a bunker or something. And I hit my approach shot to it was stiff. It was like 1.5 feet or something. I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to end on a birdie. Wasn't even thinking about, the leaderboard or anything like that. So I marked my ball. I was like, okay, I'll look at the leaderboard now because I'm on the last. Yeah, so I look and I said, oh, my name's at the top there. Yeah, I actually had ended up, I ran up the leaderboard and I was tied for the lead. I was 1 behind the leader, about to make birdie, so I was going to tie.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this 1-footer feels a lot more important than it did 2 seconds ago.
Little lesson learned there, huh?
Yeah, and I honestly actually didn't know where I stood on the money list. I knew that I was 15th going into the second to last event, and then I was so stressed out by everything that was going on that I didn't look at the money list either going into the final week. Mm-hmm. So ended up tying for the lead. Went into a playoff, and then I didn't. We like two people made birdie, the girl made eagle, who won. Wow. So it was a great playoff for everyone. And I walk off the green, and I was like, okay, that was a good year. Not even thinking about the fact that I had tied for the lead had put me from 15th to 9th on the money list, which means I had gotten my card. So in one round, shooting 65, I went from, making plans for final stage to, oh my gosh, I have to make plans for the LPGA.
Wow.
So, I mean, as soon as I found out, I completely broke down, started crying. It was the whole shebang, but definitely that day I think is the cake topper of my career so far.
What an amazing day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how, nothing changed between the time that you marked your ball and walked away, except that you looked at that leaderboard, and then all of a sudden that putt felt so different.
Your heart starts racing, your hands start shaking, and you're like, this is a really short putt, but it feels very long now.
And now, do you have any ways that you calm yourself down when something like that occurs? I mean, do you have a process that you go through? We've talked a lot about mental game things on here, and just curious.
I did. I actually picked up yoga the same year in 2014, so a lot of the deep belly breathing, just trying and hold it for a few seconds and then letting it out, just to steady my hands. And you have to tell yourself, I've done this thousands of times. My hands are shaking, but that doesn't mean that I can't make a putt still. The nerves are all there, but I've kind of learned to embrace the nerves, I guess. When that was something that I worked on in college. I would get really nervous to the point where the nerves were all I would think about. And then my coach, she made a good point one day, and she goes, the fact that you're nervous is a good thing. It means you're in it. You're in contention. So enjoy the nerves. Enjoy the fact that you have a chance to win and a chance to do something great today. And that kind of flipped my perspective a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah, taking that as the challenge and the whole getting out of your comfort zone. You know that you're growing, and you know that you're getting better when you get those nerves. That's right. That's amazing. Okay, so you and I were kind of introduced by our good friend here at 18 Strong, Caitlin Sharpless. You guys were on a FootJoy photo shoot, I believe, recently. And
had the hanger. She's so cool.
Yeah, and she is phenomenal. And so Caitlin and I were chatting about, just the perception of strength training and women doing it now in golf, and how fitness has become such a big part of golf. And Caitlin said, "Hey, who I just was talking to and you should get on is Demi Runas, because she is, I don't know if these were her exact words, but she said she's pretty hardcore in the gym, and she does her workouts, she does her yoga." And so I wanted to get you on to talk a little bit about, what it is that you're doing training wise, and what's your message to some of the younger golfers, some of the female golfers that are looking to find the best way to improve their game through their fitness.
It was, we had a really good chat about it. I'm definitely an advocate for golf strength and conditioning, mainly because I've seen so much success for myself, and my game once I did start working out properly. I'd say for me, in college, we did have a trainer. I loved him. He was great. But I felt strong, and I looked strong, but for some reason I wasn't seeing the translation from gym to the golf course. I didn't gain any distance when I was in college, and I kind of just figured, maybe this is just how it is for me. And then, because some girls just, don't hit it as far as others, and I thought that's where I was. And when I graduated, I joined this gym by my house is Exos, which is formerly known as Athletes Performance. And within a year of working with the trainer there, I picked up at least 20 yards off the tee, which is crazy.
Wow.
Because, for me, I was never a long hitter growing up, and I had accepted it. And I don't think if you looked at me in college and you look at me now, I don't look that much different. In fact, I feel like I'm a lot leaner now than I was in college, but I do hit it further just because I can move I can move the golf ball and I can put power in the right place. And I think that's the most important thing is if you're training for golf, you have to realize that you may not need to do the same things as some of the other athletes. And it's really all about, creating the stability in the right places and like generating mobility to help you create that speed. And it's just, it's been a really, really good experience for me because I feel like it's made me more aware of my swing now as opposed to before where I didn't really need to think about it. But I can feel that it's made me more stable on the golf course, and it's definitely helped in terms of distance, which is great.
And what's your trainer's name? We love throwing shout outs to the people that are doing it right out here in 18 Strong Land.
His name is Chang Lee. He kind of started off a little bit like you, I guess. He did PT. He worked with the Red Sox for a while, and he kind of bopped around in the baseball world. And then now he's the head trainer of Exos LA. And I think it's made a huge difference because he understands, because of his PT background, he understands like the way the body works too, and if like how to prevent injury and things like that. And I think it just has made him train athletes better. Because, training a golfer, you put big weights on them and it makes them actually slow down, which is not something that we need.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned, you used the word properly. You started training properly. And
right.
So give us some examples of what you and Chang are doing and, how it's a little bit different than some of the stuff that you were doing before when you were in college.
So the way that he bases the training, it's a lot of like stability, creating stability in your hips, and I believe he calls it thoracic mobility.
Thoracic mobility, yep.
So having stable hips and then having your shoulders be able to create that X factor to where your hips will stay here, but you can rotate around yourself to generate a little bit more coil. And I personally have always struggled with being stable in my lower body. So for me, he works a lot on I guess like strengthening the hips and the core. And I've been able to generate a lot more hand speed through the ball, which is where I picked up all the distance. And so he breaks down our workouts in terms of, depending on when you're starting season. So during off season, we'll start off with doing, heavy volume to build, up the strength. And then we'll go into a phase where we'll do very, very heavy weight. And then once it gets closer to season, we'll do speed. So it made sense to me when he explained it. It's like, okay, so now we're building the strength, and then you use it into translating to speed. So you're not just throwing all this weight on very, very, very early, and then you try and move a golf club, and you're like swinging through molasses.
Right, exactly. And explain a little bit, or if you could kind of enlighten some of the listeners, because I think that women oftentimes think heavyweight is a bad thing. Heavyweight's going to make you, put on more muscle than you want, or it's going to make you look bulky, or, whatever the connotation might be. But what has your experience been as far as just physique-wise? I mean, you are one of the LPGA's most beautiful women, or PGA Golf's most beautiful women, correct? 2015, I think. I'll link that up in the show notes for sure. So what has your experience been with lifting weights and, what's your body changes, things like that?
I mean, I have nothing but positive things to say about the work that I've done in the gym. I don't think, because of the way that he structures our workouts, I don't feel like I've bulked up. It's been perfect to where I've leaned out and I've also put on the muscle. So I feel like I kind of look the same still. And the heavy weights, once he explained it to me, you need it to be able to forward your physical training program. Like you need to be able to lift the heavy weights, and then once you translate it to speed, that's where the strength comes back in. So to have to have worked on lifting heavy and doing those things, and then to translate it into speed, like it was just a necessary thing. Because it's not like we lift heavy for a very, very long time, and I think that's when you get really big and bulky. So it's only a portion of the time. You don't need to lift heavy all the time. And then also, incorporating in the cardio, which is more, for us, it's more explosive. Like we'll do sprints. We'll rarely ever do, 20, 30 minutes of just running or just biking. for golf, it's all just fast twitch stuff. Like you gotta be able to move your hands and your club head through the impact quickly. So that's how we structure our workouts there.
Yeah, I think it makes, when you look at it globally, kind of like you laid it out, and you look at, starting to kind of build the foundation, build the base, work on your stability and mobility, and then start to build on that. Once you kind of have that solid foundation, build on it with a little bit of strength training, get your muscles stronger, and then start working on that power and speed and agility. And I love what you said about the high intensity stuff, because it's still very common, although I think we're starting to make a little bit of a change and get the word out that long cardio, going to the gym and hitting the elliptical for 45 minutes isn't as beneficial as people once thought, even in the fat burning realm and things like that. The stuff that you're doing, you mentioned you're even leaner, you're stronger, you're more powerful, and you're leaner than you had been, but you're not doing that long cardio. And I think women fall into that trap a lot, especially. I mean, I see guys doing it too, but the idea of not wanting to get bulky, wanting to lean out, and they kind of rely on the treadmill or the elliptical. And it's just like you said, you're doing kind of the opposite, but it's worked really, really well.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a misconception. It might, if you're a distance runner or you're a marathoner, then sure, you got to put in your time on the treadmill and do things like that, but as a golfer, like, it's important that the swing lasts 2 seconds, and that's where you need to put your work into those 2 seconds. And I think, like you said, I think it is, people are becoming a little bit more aware of it, but just to be smart about how you train, because there are a lot of people who have their own ideas and they may not be necessarily conducive to distance on the golf course.
Right. What about nutrition? I would assume you guys work a lot on your nutrition, and it's possibly a big part of your game. What are some of the things that you guys focus on?
Actually, nutrition is a huge thing for me personally, because I don't eat meat. I occasionally will eat fish, but I made the change about 2 years ago. So I have to be very on top of what I'm eating, because I did, the way that it's a tournament week is very long. It's a full week, and then it's the 4 days of tournament play. So what you put into your body is going to translate to how you feel when you're out there. And, I always pre-plan what I'm going to be eating on the golf course, and just to make sure, and you need to be able to eat at least like every 3 holes. For me, that's the thing, First tee, maybe I'll have a banana, and then on third tee, I'll have part of a bar. And then I always have a shake at 9. And then on the back 9, especially on the back 9 on the home stretch, you got to make sure you have your energy, because it's very, very easy to zonk out there, especially when it's hot and humid in the summer. It seems so simple, like just put fuel in your body because it needs it to run. And, it's amazing what one hole or like an hour or two late of eating will do to your brain. So golf is very, very, it's a completely mental sport. Well, not completely, but a big part of it is how your brain is functioning, and you need to give your brain some fuel to think.
Yeah, often very overlooked how important that is. And then when we do reach for something to go eat, it's making the right choice too, because when you're at a country club or you're just at the regular golf course on a Sunday, there's usually not, the proper fruits or veggies or whatever. And, there's obviously different choices that you probably shouldn't put in your hand. And so the preparation part is so huge, knowing what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, and kind of having it structured out like that.
Even bars, I'm very much a label reader now. I like to find bars with at least 10 grams of protein, less than 10 grams of sugar, and kind of go from there. Obviously for me, a bar without the dairy or things like that, but just, it's amazing how much sugar is in stuff.
And everything, it really is.
Getting the sugar spikes during rounds, like of the bad sugar, like if you're eating a candy bar or something, it's a very high spike and it comes down really quickly, and the crash does affect you. Yeah.
What do you do just drink-wise, hydration-wise? Just water, or do you have special drink that you use?
Mostly water, but if it's a humid area that we're in, I'll do a noon tablet, maybe twice around, just to kind of get the electrolytes in and make sure that I'm getting the electrolytes.
Okay. Well, I've never heard of that. Noon tablet, like Noon?
Nuun.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find them at, like GNC or Vitamin Shops, and Whole Foods has them too.
Gotcha. A little tip from our buddy Robert Yang, who was on the podcast, is take a little pinch of Celtic sea salt and put it in your water. And that helps too, and obviously a very natural element that you can put in the water. So
I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what do you consider as the strongest part of your game?
Strongest part of my game? I'd say, currently I think it would be my irons. I had a really good ball striking week a couple weeks ago in my first event, and I think I might have averaged like 15 greens around. It was kind of crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, the putter was a little sleepy, but it was nice to not have to chip very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what would you say is an area that you're really focused on improving right now as we move into the season more?
Definitely the flat stick and just short game around the greens, because this saying, how cliche it is, drive for show, putt for dough, is really a thing. So the player that makes the most putts during the week is probably not going to be too far off the leaderboard.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had a guy on the show a while back, a golfer, Adam Long, who's playing currently on the web.com, and one thing that he said that I loved was having a philosophy of who he is as a golfer. And if you could kind of sum up, who is Demi Runas as a golfer? Like, what's the thing about you that makes you tick and has gotten you to where you are?
Oh, man.
I know, a tough question. I just kind of threw it at you.
Question. I've been told by people, I guess, that it's a little bit hard to tell. Like, I guess not letting things bother me would be something that, it's not something that is perfect for me right now, but I think on the days where I'm really feeling good about my game and things like that, there's not a lot that ruffles my feathers. And so I would say I want to continue to become a player that is really mentally strong. I don't know if that's me personally, like right now, but I know that it's in there, because in college when I was playing really well, that's kind of how I felt. Like, if I made a bogey, I'd probably make a birdie on the next hole. So, I mean, and just talking, going even in a hole, if I miss a green, it's okay, I'm going to get this up and down. So just, I guess, being mentally strong would be a way that I would like to describe myself.
And is that something that you have worked on, or is that something that you just kind of naturally came into? I know you said you want to continue to work on it, and are you working with somebody, but is that something that you have had to really put some effort into, or did it kind of come natural?
It definitely didn't come natural in the beginning. I think personality-wise, I can be a little bit fiery. It might not come out, but it definitely, like, I can feel on the inside. So using that fire to motivate myself to come back from, a bad shot or a bad hole is something that I was able to really build in college. And now I do work with a sports psychologist. His name is Neil Smith. And he's based out here in Southern California. He works with a few PGA guys. I don't know about any of the girls just yet, but he's very good. And I feel like he understands that, it's not always about just let it go. And although the really kind of out there things, he's very, very down to earth in terms of the way that he thinks about sports psychology. It's not as structured as some of the other people do things, but it's worked really, really well for me, because he was also a player, so he understands where we're coming from and the emotions that come along with playing golf professionally.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. You've had a ton of experiences, highs, lows, good, bad. If you could go back and talk to yourself as a young teenage golfer, is there any specific advice that you would give yourself?
Probably two things. Be nice to yourself. I mentioned it earlier. You need to be your own best friend out there, because there were very many years where I was probably my own worst enemy, because I am very, very hard on myself. And also, don't be afraid to think that you're good enough is a big thing, I think, for me, just because it took me a little while to realize that I had the ability to play on the LPGA Tour and to compete on the LPGA Tour. And it's something that I'm still working on. So if I could have planted that seed a little bit earlier, I think it would have been a little bit less of a transition. But, you got to go through what you have to go through.
Absolutely. We are where we are, right?
Right.
All right, if you had the opportunity to play a round of golf or even just walk 18 holes with one person, past, present, in the world of golf, who would that be and why?
I would have to say Jack Nicklaus, just because, he's the greatest. He's one of the most majors of anyone ever. Tiger came so close to breaking his record. He might still have a shot. He might not. We'll see. But just to have somebody who is as dominant as he was, like, you always want to know what makes the people at the top of every game tick and like the way that they think. And for like the whole confidence thing for me is huge, and he must have had so much of it to be as good as he was. So to pick his brain a little bit would be really cool.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, we're kind of at the start of 2016, starting to get into the real heart of the golf season. What's your mission for the year of 2016?
I think I want to have definitely more patience than I did last year with myself. And like I said earlier, it's just to not be afraid of, performing well and like getting out of my own way. I think that's what this year is going to be for me. Like I need to get out of my own way a little bit. It was a struggle last year, but mentally I'm committed to just, this is a new year. This is a new me, and these are new opportunities for myself. So rebuilding year, I guess.
There we go. All right. Before we let you go, do you have any last piece of advice for the audience? And then where can they find out more about you? How can we kind of follow your career? We want the 18 Strong fans to all be behind Demi Runas this year.
I'm active on social media. Try to be. I have an Instagram and a Twitter. Same handle as Demi Runas Golf, all one word. I have a Facebook page, which I kind of have let slide a little bit, but I'm going to try and be a little bit better about that. Last piece of advice: enjoy the process. I think is a good one, especially for golf. It's not a sport that anyone is ever going to be able to master, and if they do, I would like to talk to them.
Right.
And so enjoy every part of it, even the struggles, because with golf especially, it's going to make you a better person, better player.
Great. Well, Demi, thank you for taking the time to join us today. I know that, just talking with Caitlin, you are a huge role model for all the women that are playing, especially for those that are looking to not only get better at golf, but just improve their fitness, improve their strength, improve their health. And that's what we're all about here. But even the mental game side, it sounds like that's a big piece of your game. And it's definitely gotten you where you are, and it's going to get you to many places in the future. So thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me. It was good. It was a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what, Demi is a rock star. She's a young lady, but she seems to be very wise beyond her years. And I know that given the amount of work that she's putting in and, just keeping an eye on her Instagram account, this girl is working hard in the gym, on the course. So I think we should all keep our eyes out for Demi Runas and what's going to happen with her career this coming year and many years into the future. So as the 18 Strong audience, if you could, let's really support Demi as she continues to push towards her dreams of winning an LPGA tournament and taking her career as far as it can go. So if you want the show notes for this episode, go to 18strong.com/Demi-Runas or just search Demi in the search bar, or you can also search episode number 79. And then lastly, if you haven't gone and gotten one of our free gifts over at 18 Strong, head over to 18strong.com/warmup, where you can get a full 20-minute at-home warm-up that you can do in your house, at the course, whatever you want. We've got a free cheat sheet and a full video where I walk you through a great little warm-up before your round of golf. So go ahead and do that. And if you haven't subscribed to the 18 Strong podcast, of course, we would love you to do that as well. Over on iTunes, leave a rating, leave a review. Every little bit helps. Thank you again for joining me this week. and I'll catch you in episode number 80. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.